know that on average, Americans spend over 432 hours in their car a year? If a natural disaster ever happens in your area, is your everyday car going to be the one that you take to get out of there? If not, why? Are you going to have time to go back to where your bug-out vehicle is? I hate that damn term, by the way. Are you going to have time to go back and get it? Possibly, but maybe not. What if there's something blocking your route? What if a fire, any natural disaster, floods, whatever, block your route to get home, to get your other vehicle? Do you have the stuff in your vehicle that you need to survive? Do you have the basic necessities met? What if it's winter time? Do you even have a blanket? What if you're one of the people that wears like high heels to work? Do you have a change of boots, change of socks? What if it's raining? Do you have a rain jacket or even an umbrella? Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Do you have any special needs? Maybe medicine? Maybe a wheelchair, something like that? These are all questions you need to ask yourself, because there's a lot of people that didn't ask themselves this. And when there's floods or fires or tornadoes or any other type of disaster, those people get stuck. Some of those people can't go home. Some of those people never make it home. So are you ready? What kind of vehicle do you have? Do you have a Prius? Is that Prius going to be able to drive through a median and get you out of a traffic jam? Do you have an electric car? Do you have to charge every couple hours? Do you have a vehicle with a very small gas tank where you're only able to go, 150, 200 miles? How far is your commute? Are you the type of person that drives an hour one way to work? Or are you more of a 10-minute person? If on your way home you have to deviate your route, do you know other routes to get home? Let's say your everyday car is an electric car because you want the gas mileage, or maybe like a Prius or a hybrid or something of that nature. Because you want the gas mileage because you're the type of person that drives an hour each way to work. Can you justify that 99.9% of the time nothing's going to happen and you're going to be just fine? Or what about that 0.01% where a freak blizzard happens and all of a sudden there's a 75 car pileup on the interstate? It happens. It happens in Colorado a lot, where I live. Are you going to be able to sit in that car and stay warm and have some food, have some water? Is your car going to die and you have to figure out some way to plug it in? These are things that I ask myself because, well, frankly, I was a stupid kid once and I did a lot of stupid things. I've been stuck up on the side of a mountain, and I think it was like May or June, and there was still snow up there, and I backed up into what I thought was flat ground. Turned out to be a pretty good ditch. My back tires were basically dangling there, and I couldn't get out. The pickup that I was driving was an F-150. It was a great truck. I loved it, but I didn't have a lift kit, didn't have bigger tires, didn't have a winch. I didn't even have a fucking shovel. Why? Because I was completely unprepared. Oh, and I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I had to run 5 miles down a mountain road in order to get cell phone reception, because at the time, cell phones were not super popular. And then after I got that, I had to beg and plead with one of my friends. What the hell are you doing? I had to beg and plead with one of my friends to come get me. Thank God he knew the location I was talking about and was able to come and get me. Now, what if I had a winch? Oh, dude, I'd have been out there in 10 minutes. Instead, I sat there for 3 hours waiting. Thank God my friend showed up and he pulled me out. I've also been driving and my tire got popped. And the day before, I had taken my jack out because I filled the back of my truck up with, I think, wood or something. So I compromised myself, and the next day, I had to call my insurance company to come out and bring me a jack so I could put on my spare tire. Now, that's very embarrassing for somebody like me, and it should be embarrassing for literally anybody. I think my last straw was I was living on the side of a mountain, and in order to get to my house, you had to go up a pretty steep hill, and it was during wintertime, and everything was iced over. And I got about 30 yards away from where I turned into my driveway, and my truck was stuck. It was not going uphill anymore, and the tires were just spinning. And eventually spun, kind of slid into a ditch. Now, I was like, oh, this is no problem. I have 2 other vehicles up here. I can get myself unstuck easily. The problem was I was all alone. So it took me about an hour to get all the vehicles stuck. And I had not made it into my driveway. Thank God we were on our own property, but all 3 vehicles were stuck. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I just sat there super pissed off at myself. Thank God my wife came back and I had one more person, and she got in our Jeep and she was able just to kind of back the Jeep up, and I hooked a tow rope to it and pulled my truck out and pulled the other truck out, and eventually it was fine. But I was so mad at myself for not being able to self-recover that I told myself this will never ever happen again. So now I'm like a fucking Boy Scout. Now I have prepared and equipped my vehicle for almost every contingency. Obviously, we cannot think of everything, and there's always going to be something thrown in there that you can't think of. However, I have sat down and through the many years and said, what do I wish I had at this point in time, and this point in time, and this point in time? What do I think I will need if this happens or that happens? And I bought it. Obviously, I was not able to buy it all at once. This is an ongoing process. But I have almost everything that I believe that I need to get myself out of almost any situation. I have contacted other people, talked to them, watch all kinds of YouTube stuff, watch shows on TV, and I have said, hey, you know what? Right now I'm good. And you know that stuff adjusts. It adjusts to the seasons. You know, if it's summer out, I'm probably not going to need as much wintertime stuff, and vice versa. It's also going to adjust depending on the environment I go to. Right now, I live in the suburbs in Colorado, and if I go out in the mountains, I might take some stuff. Or if I go on a road trip, I'm going to take different stuff. And depending on where that road trip is, I'm going to take even different stuff. When all the riots were hot and heavy, I made sure to bring some body armor because I don't like to bleed, and I'm not a huge fan of dying. And I thought, you know, I'm going to be in a couple big cities, and what if some shit does kick off? Then what? Am I just going to sit here and die? Fuck no. I'm going to give myself the best chance to survive. And that's what I want you to do. Give yourself the best chance to survive. Survival's not guaranteed, but you know what? Anything we can do to help ourselves is always good. While I have done everything to prepare myself, I was recently reminded in a very hard way that not everybody else has the same mindset, and that you should not take things for granted. I was on a little road trip, and I was in the city of Chicago with the familia. We were gonna go do some sightseeing. I did research beforehand and ensured that the parking garage that we were going into was big enough to fit my truck. My truck has a lift kit, and it has a rack on top that has a bunch of extra shit that if I need it in a quick, fast, and a hurry, I can jump up there, grab it, and help somebody or help myself. Now, this parking garage, they said, hey, our ceilings are 8'1". And I said, great. I measured my truck. Everything is good to go. So, went, dropped people off at the hotel. I said, I'll go park the truck. Went around the block, went into the parking garage. There was no spots open. Okay, so I kept going up. About the third floor, I heard something. Well, it was not a good sound. It was a very, very bad sound. And what I heard was my rack on top of my truck getting ripped off of my topper. Yeah, not cool. What had happened was, yes, the ceiling was 8'1" tall, only on the first 3 floors. And then it dropped by a foot. There was no signs, there were no warnings. It just dropped. That was about this far from the top of my truck, and it ripped my whole rack off the top. I was pissed. I was so mad, I obviously had to get out of my truck, take everything down, throw it in the back of my truck, and again, try to fit everybody's bags in there. Luckily for me, I have tools in my truck, and I was able to help myself and kind of, use my tools and fix it. But for the rest of the trip, I had to deal with that. So it's a harsh reality for me, thinking that, I'm ready, I'm good to go in all this. And in fact, I wasn't. I did not do enough research. And while, yeah, it was their fault, they didn't have any signs and anything like that, but I take some of the blame because I should have looked and I should have asked, and I did not do that. You live and you learn. Sometimes that lesson fucking sucks. They matter. And maybe you have that commuter car and you don't keep anything in it, but then at home you got a Suburban with all kinds of stuff in it. Well, if you get stuck in between your work and home, then you're never going to be able to get back to that Suburban. And I think it's very important that we kind of look at that stuff. And if you're driving an hour to work and an hour home, and you have, no idea how your vehicle, let's say you have an electric car and you get stuck in a traffic jam for, 3 hours. There's a bad accident, you get stuck there for 3 hours. Is that electric car even gonna work after that? Like, hell, I don't know. I don't know how, good they are. I know they've gotten better over time, but I don't know exactly how good they are. Is it gonna be able to, do the 4 or 5 hour commute when you really needed to? On top of that, let's just say you're going on a trip and you have to drive through like Nevada or like Utah, where like literally for miles and hours there is nothing, like literally nothing around. And you I don't know, your car overheats. Do you carry extra water? That way you can put it in your car? Extra oil, extra anything? That stuff is also important. And there's people that take this to the extreme and carry the kitchen sink with them, and that's not good too, because cars have a payload. With my truck, I have a whole bunch of extra weight on it, and I have a whole bunch of stuff in it, and I have a 36-gallon tank, 36 or 36.5-gallon tank, and I noticed that from being a stock vehicle, I was getting around 600 miles to a tank, and with all the stuff on it, I'm getting about 550-ish. So with that being said, like, you have to know that stuff, and you have to understand that, like, hey, I'm not going to get as much mileage out of my vehicle when I weigh it down. So let's say you have a family of 4, you got a dog and a cat. Do you have all the necessities for all those people and those animals in your vehicle? Let's say you have to bug out. do you even know where you're going? Like, do you have a cabin out in the woods? Do you have, a friend's house that you're going to? Anything like that? If you don't, then, if you don't know where you're going, then that's kind of pretty bad too. If there's a, societal collapse and people riot and burn the town down, like, that's never happened. And you're part of that area where all the rioters and the activists are going to burn down because, I don't know, whatever, you're a rich white person and BLM wants to burn your house down. Like, if you got to roll out, do you know where you're going? Because more than likely, you're going to have a vehicle that can, either drive around the crowd or drive through the crowd if need be. Maybe go over a couple curbs, maybe go through a median, and then on top of that, be able to drive to the destination. So if you have let's just say a Tesla, those things are pretty cool. They get great, whatever, electric mileage. I don't know what it's called. But a Tesla couldn't do that. A Tesla can't drive up the wrong way on a steep incline and then get on the road and then drive through some people and over 3 curves and then all of a sudden drive you to your destination. It's just not going to be able to do that. Now, if you have a more capable vehicle, it might be able to do that. So you got to kind of pick and choose what your battles are, and you kind of got to weigh what you need versus what you want versus what you have to have. Talking about routes and where you want to go and things like that, I'm going to get into it a little deeper of everything that kind of I have, but do you know where you're going and do you have a route to get there? Do you have an alternate route? Do you have a contingency or tertiary route or an emergency route? There's a thing in the military we use called PACE, P-A-C-E, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. I like to use the word tertiary just because it's a cool word. It means third. But do you have those? Is it possible for you to have those, or do you live down, or is your place where you're going down a one street, like a 1-lane street? When I lived in the mountains, it was one way in and one way out, so there was only really one route. So that's not necessarily the best, but I mean, you got what you got. And if we were all millionaires, then we could have 10 houses and everybody be able to do whatever they wanted and not have a helicopter, wouldn't have to worry about this. But we're not, and I'm not. So, do you have like an old school, like one of these? Do you have one of these? If you do you know how to read it? Do you know how to circumnavigate the area? Because a lot of people nowadays, they rely solely on their cell phones or their navigation in their vehicle, and they really have no idea what a piece of paper looks like, a map. And I'm going to get into that more, but let's just say that you're in an area that you're not getting cell phone signal, and you're trying to go down some roads in the mountains. I have apps that can do all that stuff, but also I have like when I go hunting, I have what they call a plot map, and it's basically in the state of Iowa, you have every square mile, there's pretty much a country road. It's like a big grid, and there's a plot map that shows you all the lands that are basically BLM lands or open lands to the public, and all the private lands. But it also shows all the little bitty roads all around, little bitty streams and all that stuff. That way you can navigate yourself around. You don't have to rely on a cell phone or rely on somebody else to tell you where you're going. And that's also very important. There's too many people in this world today that they rely too heavily on all that stuff, and all the little things of like which direction is north, things like that are just almost outdated. And it's sad because my kids, for example, if I show them a map, they have no idea what they're looking at. And it's something that, I'm trying to work through, and I think you should too, because one day you're probably going to need that skill, and if you don't have it, then what are you going to do? So with all that being said, I'm going to show you my vehicle, a little bit of it. I'll kind of dig deeper into specialty things, like comms, medical stuff, lights, winches, all that stuff like that. I'll kind of dig a little bit deeper in all that. But you got to think, let's say your trip is an overnight trip, and you have your map and you know where you're going. Where's everybody going to sleep? You gonna sleep in your chair? You have a tent? You know, do you have somebody that sleeps really cold so they need extra blankets? You know, anything like that. Just think about this. If you're gonna go camping, what would you take? If you're gonna go camping and you said, hey, I wanna take the minimal amount of stuff that I need, then what would you take? Take that train of thought and use that to think about what you would do. If you have a little 4-door car and you think that's gonna make it through the mountains of Colorado, you're just wrong. In Colorado, it can hail in July and August, and that hail can be pretty big and pretty thick, and there's a lot of cars that get stuck, and you see it all the time. There will be a hailstorm, and you'll see everybody with a plate from out of state just pulled on the side of the road, just have no idea what to do. And there's people like me just driving through it all. And something like that, you know, you can't really control what the weather's gonna do. So you just need to be aware of things like that. Take a look at my vehicle in this beautiful Colorado weather. It is a 2015 F-150. Bought it brand new about a year after I got it. I put a 6-inch lift. It's got a Pro Comp lift. It was actually the only lift that was out at the time. It's got Pro Comp wheels, and it's got 35 1250 ridge grapplers on there. On the front and rear, it's got Fab 4 bumpers. It also has a Smittybilt 16,000 inch synthetic. Don't worry about the trash, it goes out tomorrow morning. 16,000 pound synthetic winch with a factor 55 fair head. In front, I got some fog lights. These are actually sliders. The first ones I had did not work all that well. On the back, I have a cap on there. This is the one that actually got broken, and I have a new one on order. And I used to have something up top to carry stuff as well. On the back, we got a bike rack. And drop this real quick. I also have the leader locker system up there. And then I have the deck system down here. And this is all the stuff that was actually up top. And I just threw it up there to get it out of the way until my new stuff comes. Some of the quick stuff I have in the back. I have, right here, I have a med kit. And we'll kind of get into more of that as the time comes. Underneath here, I have a lot of quick stuff that I need. Gloves, hats, things like that. Front door right here, I have, again, some more medical stuff. Flashlights, gloves, rain jacket, a little light, knives down here. CB up here, I have all the stuff for ram mounts for everything. I also have, this is a panoramic roof. I have DVD players and stuff installed for the kids. And all around, like you can see, these seatbelt cutters all the way around. And that's about it. We'll kind of get into everything else as it goes. And I'll do some more videos on everything I have, especially all the recovery stuff I have. If you got any questions, hit me up.